Hey, boys and girls. Today in writing, you're going to work on the middle of your report about your nonfiction topic. So, there are three ways that you can do this, and I'm going to use some of our mentor texts to help give you an example of how how your report will be structured. So, the first one is the journey or the narrative structure. In reading, we've been calling this one like literary nonfiction. So this one takes your reader on a journey over a period of time or takes your reader on a journey to a destination. Let's look at if you decide to go to the moon. If you if you decide to go to the moon in your own rocket ship, read this book before you start. It will tell you how to get there and what to do after you land. The most important part tells you how to get home. Check the things you will need: spacesuit, air tanks, books, and games. Don't forget your diary and plenty of food. Peanut butter, apples, and cake will taste good in space. Water and juice are also important. To get to the moon, you will travel 240,000 miles. A long trip, but rocket ships go fast. If you average 3,750 miles per hour, you will get there in 2.5 days. So on the left side, it's kind of funny because obviously we're not going to, astronauts don't take peanut butters, apples, and cake into space. But they probably do take air tanks, spacesuits, and they probably take a diary or something to do while they're traveling. On the right side, however, we do get those nonfiction facts um, immersed into our text. So we know how far the moon is away, and we can throw in a fact about how many days it takes to get there if we travel as fast as they tell us to travel in the text. So I've got those facts in the text. Let's look at another mentor text for this style. This is our This is our book Into the Sea. I'm trying to move me up a little bit. Tap, tap, scritch. The tiny sea turtle is the last hatchling to break out of her leathery egg and crawl up the sides of a sandy nest. She is not much bigger than a bottle cap and would make a good meal for a hungry seabird or crab. But at this moment, at dawn, the crabs are resting in muddy burrows, and the beach is quiet and empty. The turtle smells the sand and stares at the bright moonlight that glistens across the ocean. She rests for a moment and then, like a wind up toy, pulls herself quickly across the beach with her flippers. She always heads straight for the silvery moonlight. Clack, click, clack. A crab pops out of its burrow and sees the dark moving shape. Just in time, the turtle reaches the edge of the water. A gentle wave splashes across her back and carries her into the sea. So, even though this is a literary journey style, we're still getting information about predators and prey for the sea turtles, when they hatch out of their eggs, and how they navigate as a tiny little baby creature to the sea. They use the moon as their guide. Instinctively, the turtle knows how to paddle with her flippers and dive beneath the surface. She is still swimming hard when the sun moves into the sky. Every few minutes she comes up for a breath of air. Her eyesight is much better in the water. She sees a jellyfish, a starfish, and a barracuda with a big mouth. None of them see the turtle. Her white underside blends in with the shimmering white surface of the ocean. So again, we have lots of facts about how the turtle blends in her environment, other creatures that are around the sea turtle in the ocean, and that she has to breathe air. She doesn't breathe through gills like a fish. She has to fill her lungs with air every few minutes. So this is our journey or literary style. This is a great style to pick if you want to include a lot of descriptive details and a lot of sensory details. This is a good blend of fiction with the nonfiction facts mixed in. Our second style is the question-answer text structure. And for this one, I pulled up 2 articles instead of our mentor text. So our first article is called Brace Yourself. We're going to use this one next quarter when we do our feature articles. But as you notice, this article is broken into sections, and each section starts with a question. So you have your introduction, and then you have your why do I need braces? And then the author answers it. What's it like to wear braces? And then the author answers that question. Do braces hurt? And then she answers that question, or he answers that question. And then he finally has his conclusion to his article. So your report could look a little bit like this, where this would be our first slide, this would be our second slide, this will be our third slide, and this will be our fourth slide, and then this last one will be our fifth slide. This is a structure that a lot of ELA teachers encourage students to use when they're learning how to use reports. So you start with that introduction, you end with that conclusion, and in the middle, you organize your information into 3 sections. Let's look at a different article. This author, this one is called E-Trash, What Happens to Our Old Electronics? So Rachel has that same 5-paragraph text, that same 5-paragraph style to her report. She starts out with her introduction, but each paragraph starts with a question. Is that a big problem? Yes, it's big, she answers. Why is that a problem? And then she tells you, well, electronics are made from a variety of materials. Some are relatively harmless, and others such as lead, nickel, and cadmium and mercury can be toxic. And then she talks about what can we do about it? Recycle. So this is a good, and then she has her conclusion down here about what to do with, and we'll talk more about conclusions tomorrow. Another author that puts his information into sections or chapters is Martin Jenkins in his book Ape. So he has a section or a chapter about each type of ape. Let's look at the book. So remember today, or yesterday, since you're watching this tomorrow, we read his introduction where he introduces that there are 5 apes and that 4 of them are rare. And so each section starts with a big heading, and then he has several pages about the orangutan, what they eat, how they live with their families. Then he goes to a new section, and you get a new heading, chimp. So then he has chimp family relationships, what chimps eat, some problems that chimps have, like fighting. And then he goes to the next ape. So if you remember in your template that I gave you yesterday, you should have your cover, add your title, fix it with your name. You should have your introduction finished. If you were an at-home student yesterday, you may have to type this in today if you didn't do it last night. So you'll probably have your little introductions in here. And then this is what I was talking about. You're going to have slide 3, slide 4, and slide 5. If you decide to do the journey or narrative text structure, you may choose to take those headings out. You probably won't need those in a journey or literary type of nonfiction. So if you want to delete those, you can, or if you leave them in there, I can delete them for you. And so you may just want to have more of a introduction and then a beginning, a middle, an end, and then we'll wrap up with a conclusion for your whole paragraph. So you may want to think about having those 5 paragraphs divided up into a beginning and middle and end for your topic. This would be good if you're doing an animal, because you could talk about its life cycle. And then, or it could be good if you're writing about a sport, because you could tell how to play the game in order. Think about what you want to do. If you're going to do a reference style, this works perfectly, because you can just have those headings just like Martin Jenkins did, or just like we saw in the Brace Yourself or the eTrash articles, where each one had a heading. So if you choose to do question answer, you'd have your question where it says heading, and then your text would be to answer your question. All right. And then you do not have to do slide 6, the conclusion. That will be our Thursday lesson. And so by Friday, you should definitely have a finished draft of your report. Now, remember what I said in class. We are not adding any pictures or changing fonts or adjusting the types of print. That's all going to take place next week when we do our revising lessons. The other thing that I did not show you in class yesterday, I'm going to pull this up real fast, is that rubric. And it's in your lesson. Computer's running a little bit slow. Just go to Miss Shrek's homeroom. But everybody had it in their homeroom lesson. And that's our rubric. So your rubric is how I'm going to grade your work. And so if you click on it, we're basically looking at this very first page of the rubric. So this will be, I'll give you, part of your grade will be from the ideas and purpose. So do you have a topic that's narrow and focused? Do you have facts and details about your topic? And you can look and see, like, from very many facts to some to few to not very many at all. If you just write a story about a sea turtle and it doesn't have any informational text, that's where you would get that level 1. And then for this week, your grade will come from, did you write an introduction? Did you group your information in your Wednesday lesson? Is it in sections? Is it organized? Do things kind of match up together? Another thing that I'll look for is, did you use some linking words or phrases to connect your ideas? So that might be where you think about text structure and some of those key details that we have on our anchor charts in our notebooks. And then tomorrow's lesson will be about the strong concluding sentence or concluding section that finishes up your work. And so your grade from this week will come from this page of the rubric. And then this page of the rubric will be next week. So we'll have lessons to help you get that stuff added into your text structure. And the last thing I want to say, I remember I had to pause for a second and think, what was the last thing? The last thing I want to say is don't turn these projects in, because if you turn it in, then you can't edit it. And so it causes some problems. So just remind your parents, and I'll put it in the stream so you can show them, if just in case they ask, why is this not turned in? And I'll take the due date off later on so that it doesn't show up late. But I'm not really worried about it being late. I'll check every day to see if it's done for the attendance. I can look at your work without it being turned in. And so this is the time where we don't turn it in, because you'll have to keep coming back to the Tuesday lesson over and over again every time we want to work on it. The other way you can find your work is just to go to Google Drive and find your work in Google Drive. But if you want to find it in Google Drive, then it has to be unsubmitted. So if it's submitted in Google Classroom, you won't be able to open it here. It'll say not unable to edit. And so so some of you turned them in yesterday. When I return them to you, just leave them not turned in. That's totally fine with me. Okay? And if your parents have questions, I'll put a little message in the stream so you can point to it and say, look, she said, don't turn it in. Okay? All right. Well, good luck today with your structure. Think about your text structures that we've been doing in reading too. Could you do a compare and contrast paragraph? Are you more of a descriptive paragraph? So think about those text structures that we've been using in reading, and think about how you could use those in writing this week too. All right. If you have questions, make sure you private comment, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.